Hello friends, in this video we will build a Flutter application where we will use a real REST API. So this is the demo of the application. So in this application we are having a to-do app where we can add a task, like this is going to be our first task which says let's learn is the title, build a real to-do is description. Once you submit you get a confirmation of success. So you can see when you come back you see the task. Let's add one more task. So let's add title first. This is fantastic, and for the description we are going to write this is amazing. We get a confirmation when we come back we have the task. Let's edit one of the tasks. So suppose if you made some mistake or if you wanted to make some changes to the existing task, you can edit it and you will get the confirmation of updation success. When you go back it automatically refresh. You can click on delete and it will delete the true task. And this is our CRUD application we are creating. This is the reading and updating and deleting. So we are covering all the four operations. Now we will see the API documentation. As we are going to use a real API, so it's important that first we know about the API which we are going to use. So this API is live on internet, which means you can also open this URL and use it and see it. Okay, so here you can see that we have to do and schema. So we will mainly focus on to do section. So in the to do section you can see we have 5 different endpoints. The first one is get all, second is like create, the third is get by ID, put is update by ID, and delete is for deleting it. So we have 5 endpoints. We will be using all of these 5 to build the application. Let's use one by one. So this is the get all. So here we click on the try out at right top and execute. You see we got the response here. So currently the response is not having anything, but if you go to post and try to create something, and after that if you will try to get it, you will get some data. So the title and description, you see execute button. Let's click on this. You see this has been executed and here we got the response. You see there is created at, updated at, ID. These are some extra field which is being automatically added. Okay, so let's copy the ID. Once we copy the ID and once we come to the get by ID, and if we paste the ID, you can see we are getting the task. If you try to put some random ID, it should not work. You can see 1 2 3 is invalid ID. Okay, so now we will go to get all and try to execute, and you see we got one item because currently we have only one. So like all to do task is only one. So let's create one more. So now the all to do task will become 2. Let's add one more. So now we have 3 tasks and you can see now we have 3. Now if I will do get all, I will see all the 3 tasks which we have created. So get all basically gives us all the tasks which we have created till now. Awesome. So let's try to delete it. So I have one ID. If I paste and execute, you see I get success and this is deleted. If I try to delete again, it says document not found because that document doesn't exist. We already deleted it. Let's try to edit or modify a document which has been deleted. I know I might be like sound like a fool. How can we delete, like edit something which is deleted? So I'm just testing it if this is correct or not. Okay, so if I try to do it, it says 404 document not found. I hope you got the idea. This is a real API and works like the way it should work. Okay, so let's copy another ID and let's try to update it. So you see I get success. So this ID was of second task. So now we don't have task 2. This is task 9. The ID is still same, but the title has been changed. Coming to the delete, let's try to delete the task 9. Okay, so task 9 has been deleted. If I come at the first one, execute, you see I only get task 3. So now currently only we have one task. You can open this URL in your browser and you will find that you can also see the task. And there are some metadata which can help you in pagination if we do. Okay, so let's add one more task and execute. So after adding, if you will come to browser and refresh, you will find that that can be also seen in your browser. And because in our browser we send get request, so whenever you type any URL in your browser and press enter, it send a get request. To do all of this in our Flutter application, we will use this package, which is HTTP. Now we will start the coding and we will use that package and API to build the application. So first of all, I am having this much of code which I will remove, and I am going to start from writing first line of code. So you can see here I start by writing main, and inside the main we have run app. After that we will have material app. Inside the material app we will have home page. So let's create the home, and home is going to be home page. Currently home page doesn't exist, which means we need to create it. So let's zoom in a little bit and we will create a directory name screens. Inside that we will have home dot dart. So this is the first page. We also have a page for like adding the to do, so that is going to be the add page dot dart. We can name it home page as to do list, because on the home page we will have list of to dos. So let's write stf and to do list page. So now we have created our first page and it is going to return the scaffold. That's it. So now here we will return to do list page as our home. So this works fine. So in our scaffold it's empty, so let's add app bar, and the app bar will say title text, and the text is going to be to do list. Okay, so now this looks good. I'm going to change the theme, and that's very simple. So just write theme data or dark. So now we have a dark theme. There is a debug banner at the right top corner. We can remove that easily by giving this parameter. Awesome. So now we have the basic scaffold app. So let's start by creating another page, which is add page. So currently we have only one page. So the add page, in order to navigate to the add page, we will create a floating button, and that will help us in navigation. So that is the add, you see add to do in the right bottom. Okay, so when we will tap on that, it should open a new page which will be navigate to add. Okay, so in order to move to that page, we need to first create it. So currently we do not have that page, so let's create it first. Let's import it. Okay, so now we will return a scaffold here, and let's have a app bar, and the title is going to be text with add to do. Awesome. So now we have a page where we want to navigate on button click. So let's create a route, and this route is going to have a builder which will return this page. Now we will push this route, and after pushing it will open that page. So let's press on this. It doesn't navigate because we haven't assigned this callback to the on press. Now it works, and this is awesome. Moving forward, we will create a form and child. Okay, we have to write body. Okay, so let's write body, and we will have a list view inside our body. We could also use column. The reason of using list view is, if you use list view, when the keyword will open, it will be scrollable. You will not get overflow error. So now we have two text field. So in order to identify the purpose of the text field, we will have a hint text, and hint text work like a placeholder. So title. Awesome. So when there will be nothing, this hint text will be appearing in that text field like a placeholder. And the next one is description, and the description can be longer. So for that we will allow multi-line. So min line is 5, max line let's make it 8. So now you can see here we have like multi-line. So whenever we are having multi-line, the keyboard also needs to be changed, and for that we can say text input type and multi-line. So when you do this in your keyboard, at the right bottom you might find a enter or next line button. So the corner are like very much attached to the corner, like the form is attached to the corner. Let's add some padding. Now we are going to have a elevation button, and this button will help us in submitting this form to the server. So here we have this button now. So all the form controls are currently like very much tightly attached to each other, so we will have some space between them via size box or using size box. So now this one looks good, and yeah, so now we should proceed to the next step, which is submitting the form to the server. So when we click on the submit button, it should take the input from the fields and submit it to the server. So this will be the form handling, how we will take the input and submit. So we will make a method called submit data, and we will split this task into 3 different parts. It will help us understanding how things work and how you should have a approach towards the form submission. So first we get the data, after that we submit the data to the server, and the third one is we give a visual feedback to the user if the data has been submitted successfully or it failed. So let's start with the first one, and this is going to be very small, so don't think it's a 3-step task. It will take much time. It will not take much time. Okay, so the first one is get the data from the server. So for that, first of all, we will create a variable title, and okay, in order to get the data in the variable title, we need to have a controller which can help us in accessing the value. So for that, we will create text editing controller, and the first is going to be for title. We will create one more, and that is going to be for description. So now we have 2 controllers, so we will attach these controller to their respective text field like this controller. Okay, so now this has been attached. Moving forward, using these controller, we can have the value. So text controller dot text, basically the like title controller and description controller dot text, and we will store these in the variable. So now we have the input. Moving forward, what to do with these inputs? So when we want to create the data, we have some request body. This is the request body which we are sending to the server. So we need to create a body something like that using input of the form. So here we are having the body. So the task was hard coded. Now I replace that thing with the variable. So now we will send this data to the server instead of any hard coded value. So whatever will be inside the form, that will be sent to the server using body. So now the get part is done. The next one is submit the data to the server. So using HTTP we will do that. So for that we will go to our pubspec.yml file, and inside the dependency we will paste it. Okay, so now we paste it and save it. It's fine. Moving forward, we will import that library, which is or basically package, and I will write alias http. So now all the things which is defined inside http needs to be uh, accessed using http alias. Okay, so you can see in the post we create the data and we send the data. So we send a post request to this URL and we send the data, and the URL can be found in request URL also. This is called as endpoint. So most of the time the backend developer will provide you this endpoint. If there is Swagger documentation, you can read that from there also. So we have this URL. So now the next step is to convert the URL into URI. Okay, so now the URL has been converted to the URI, and we are making the request. Moving forward, we will have a variable where we will make the request and store the response. So as the HTTP post takes some time, like making a network call will take some time based on your internet speed. That's why there is a wait before that HTTP post. Now you can see that when we are making the request, we need to send the body. This is the request body which needs to be sent. So for that, inside the HTTP post there is body. You can just give the body, and this body will be sent to the server along with this other information. Okay, so now let's print the response and see if everything works or if there is any issue. So let's restart the app. So I restarted the app, but looks like it didn't work. Yeah, now it's working. Okay, so now I will open the debug console and click on add to do. So now we write a task with a description and click on submit. Nothing happens. Okay, the reason is I did not call this method on button click. So now I have called. So when I click on this, I get a unhandled exceptions. Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but like we got exception. We need to fix it. So let's see what is the error. So it says type bool is not subtype of type string in typecast. Okay, so there is some issue in typecasting. So bool cannot be sent like this. So for that, what we will do, the right way of sending JSON data is to decode it first. So we will do JSON, like encode it first, encode it to the string. So now we do JSON encode and we send it. So now we get the response. Looks like the request has been received by the server, but I don't know what is the response. So let's print the status code and the body. Let's submit it again. It says 400, which is not a good sign. It says bad request exception. Okay, so again it was not success, but at least we are able to send it to the server. Let's look at this curl and we find that the content type is not like declared here. So whenever you are sending the JSON, you should declare the content type in header. It's not required every time, but it is required in most of the case that you declare the headers, what kind of data you are sending in the body. So we declare that content type is JSON in the header. So now our server knows that in the body, although we are sending a string, but that is not a string, that is a JSON. So server will convert that string into the JSON, or server will parse it, that string, into the JSON by itself. So now we get the status code as 200 and success as true. You can see success as true, which means everything worked. So now whenever we make the request to the server for creating a to do, and if we get the status code as 201, which means the data has been created on the server. So 201 is the success code for us. So most of the time you might be not aware what is the success code. So probably you can first of all print the status code and just know what is the success code, and after that apart from success code, all other are failure code. So in our case 201 is success code for creation. So let's print something in the console. So if the request is success, like 201, it is success, and if that is not success, it will say creation failed. So let's try to do it and confirm if it is working as expected. So I will say item 2, and in the description I will say item 6. Let's submit it. I get creation success. So everything was good. Let's try to make this request as invalid, and let's confirm if that is working or not, because the success was working, not sure about the failure. Currently we have one more things to do. In order to test the failure, we are not giving the visual feedback. So we will test the failure after building the visual feedback thing. So for visual feedback we will have a scaffold, and that, not scaffold, basically a snack bar, and that snack bar will give the visual feedback to the user. For the success also there will be a visual feedback, and for the failure also there will be a visual feedback. So this is a method which we will use. So here we will just pass the message which is creation success. So now this one is done. If I submit, you see creation success. So now we don't need to print that message anymore. We can get the idea of success and failure from the UI. So let's do the same for failure also. So whenever there will be failure, we will show a snack bar. But the issue is the success and failure snack bar have same styling. So let's have a little different styling in their behavior so that it will be easier for the user to understand without reading the message also, because like whenever there is some warning, by their sign that's red. So here we are having a red background, so success is white, it's good. If I remove the header, or if I comment the header, I get a error, creation failed. So you see, it required some attention, something failed. So now we have this thing completed, and the last thing which is remaining here is the reset of the form. When we submit the data to the server anytime for creation purpose, after success submission, it reset the form. So currently also it reset the form. Using like text editing controller, we can set some other value. So we are setting empty string in order to reset the form. Moving forward, now I will talk about something which is get all the data which is saved on the server, which is the first API. So currently we can save the data to the server, but we are not aware if that data has been saved or not. In order to do that, we will like use the first API, and you see we have the data here. So we can just copy the request URL and we will make a request to this URL. So once we get the URL, we will convert this into the URI, and once we convert it, after that we need to use HTTP package, and once you use the HTTP package, you can make the request. So I will say HTTP get, and we will just say URL. Here we do not have to pass anything like body or content, because we are not sending any content, we are just making a request. And look, things look good here. So we are making the request, and let's print the response dot status code. I missed the await part, that's why the status code was not there, because it was a future. Okay, looks like this one is good. If I restart it, it doesn't work. The reason is I am not calling this method like fetch to do. How can we call it? So in order to call this, the best way is to call this inside the init state. So init state is like whenever some stateful widget get rendered or displayed, it just call the init state, and you see this is calling this one and everything is getting printed. So the status code is 200, which is success in this case. So if the response status code is 200, we got the data, otherwise it failed. So whenever we will get the data, we need to take it. So how can we take it? So we will say like response.body, that will give me the data, and we will use JSON decode, that will give me the data in JSON format. If you remember from the previous like post request which we did few minutes ago, while sending the data, we convert the JSON into string, and server takes the string as the input, and server gives string as the output also. We have to do the parsing thing by ourselves. Coming to the response, you can see that when you decode it, you get a map. So here you can see that this is basically map. Inside the map there are lots of things. We are interested in items, which is a string, or not a string, basically a list or array. So we typecast it into the list. Okay, so now we are having items, and we will do a set state items equals to result. So when we will get the data, we will update the state, and whenever the request is not success, it will come to the else, we can show error there. So let's refresh now, and nothing happened. Why? Because API is getting called, data is being stored in the variable, but like we are not displaying it. In order to display it, we will use list view builder, and inside the list view builder I will return a list tile, and it will have a text called sample text. Okay, so now you can see we got a beautiful list view very quickly, but it is infinite, so we need to give some length. So I say items dot length, which means the amount of to do which we get from the API, that will be the length. So now item equal to items of index, and we try to print it. So you see now we got this data here. So let's say as map, because I am aware that each to do item is a map. So now if I say title, like in the map you say the key and you get the value. So I say title, I got the value. For the description I will say item of description, and I will get the value. That's it. So this is how it works. Coming to the leading, so let's show index number or counting number basically. So it will give us the idea how many elements are there. So 1 to 5, there are 5 elements. So we can keep this leading into the circle avatar, and it will make it more beautiful. So let's try to add one more item here, and let's submit to confirm if that list is real or not. If I come back, it is like not refreshing by itself. I need to refresh or reload. Okay, test with real. So you see this is working as fine, but the refresh was the other issue. So let's solve that refresh issue. So for that we will wrap this list view builder into refresh indicator, and here we just have to call a async method which is fetch to do. So whenever I will pull to refresh, it will just refresh the list of data. So now if I add any data, I just have to pull to refresh and it will refresh it. So when the data is loading, it is not showing me any indicator. So for that we can have a variable called is loading. So it will keep the state of uh, the loading status. So once everything is done in the fetch to do, I will say loading has been done. Is loading will become false, and at the very first when the loading will start, the is loading will become true, and the else part can be removed for now because we are not using it. Okay, so let's refresh this. So now we have a variable which keep the track of loading status. So now we will use a widget called visibility, and that widget will help us to show a loading indicator which will let us know like data is loading. So we will wrap the complete widget into visibility, and I will have a logic called visible is loading. So if it is true, it will show the child. So if data is loading, it will show the list of item, otherwise it will show indicator. I think this is the wrong logic. Okay, so if I refresh, it shows me this, and it shows me this for every time, because if loading is true, it should show the loading indicator which is child, otherwise it should show the list. So if I refresh, it was not working as expected. Okay, so it should be true when the fetch to do will be called. Okay, let's do again. So you see the loading comes whenever we do pull to refresh, but I think this is not a good behavior. So for this, what we can do, we can remove this thing like is loading true. Okay, let's refresh. So by default is loading is true, and once the page has been loaded, the pull to refresh indicator will only come. Okay, so let's try to add one more task, and let's confirm if pull to refresh is correct or not. So if I submit it, if I creation success, go back, the task is 6. If I refresh, I get the 7th task, which means pull to refresh is working as expected. Moving forward, now we should integrate some more feature to it. So currently we have create, which we can like add a to do. We have read, we can read the to do. Now we will move towards update and delete. So for that, in the trailing, I will have a pop-up menu button. So in a moment you will see what a pop-up menu button is. So in the pop-up menu button, it returns a list of pop-up menu items. So this is the more option is pop-up menu button. So in the pop-up menu button, we need to return some pop-up menu item. So the first one is edit. So if I click on this one, I get edit, and I get edit for all the to do item. So I need delete also. So now I will get edit and delete. So you see we have two options for each to do, which is edit and delete. So whenever we will tap on any of them, it will call a method and we will perform perform some action. So each pop-up menu item takes a value which help us in deciding which button was clicked. So you see on selected, it gives us a value and the value will be same as the button clicked value. So if you click on the edit, the value will be edit, and when we click on the edit, it should open the edit page. Coming to the next one, delete. When we click on the delete, the value will be delete, and we should delete and refresh the page to show the latest data, or delete and remove the item, because we don't need to refresh, we can also just remove the deleted item. So if we click on delete, nothing happens for now. So let's move forward and let's have the delete API, because that is going to be simple. So I will start with delete. So I will call a method called delete by id, which is not defined yet. I will define in a moment. So I need to extract the id from the to do. So final id item underscore id. If you remember, the API returns us not id, the key is underscore id. So that's why I have written that as string, because it's a string. Okay, so delete by id is currently not valid. So let's define it, make that statement valid. So delete by id, and the id is going to be of type string. It will be a Singh, and the return type is going to be future void. Awesome. So in order to delete it, we will first delete the item, and the next will be remove the item from the list, and that's it for the deleting. First one is delete the item API call and remove the item from the current list. How can we delete it? So for that we need URL. So let's go back to the Swagger, and we have some ID, and in order to delete we need some ID. So if we come to the delete, and if we give some ID and click on execute, you will find it has been deleted, and the request URL is this one. So let's copy the request URL and let's paste it. So you can look at the end of the request URL, and that was the ID of the to do which we wanted to delete. So we will also do the same thing. We will keep the ID of the to do at the end of the URL. So let's call this, convert this to the URI and paste it. And here also you can see the content type is not required and the accept is optional. So we can ignore that header and the await. So if the response status code equal to 200, then the delete is success and we will remove it. Otherwise it's not success, we will show some error like deletion failed or something like that. So let's refresh the page and let's click on first one, task one, click on delete. It didn't delete, I think. Let's refresh the page. Task one is not there at the top anymore, which means it is deleted. Let's delete the first one again. We have 6 items at this point. If we refresh, now we have 5 items, which means the delete is working, but after the deletion it doesn't remove that item. How can we do that? So for that, when the delete is happening, we can do is loading. So the loading indicator, I think, but that's not a good idea. So for that, what we will do, we will just remove it without showing any animation kind of thing. So items where, so we will keep all the element which is not deleted. So how can we verify that? So we will say from the items, give me all the element whose id is not equal to the id which was supposed to be deleted. So now we got the all the elements. So now we have final filtered. So this is just a filtered item. So in the items we will keep the filtered item. So it has been deleted from the server, and on the client side we just remove that item from the list. Awesome. So now the delete is working, and it is at same time removing it also. Okay, so now currently we have only 2 items, and moving forward, remove item from the, moving forward we have few more things to do, like edit. At this point we can I think it's fine for the delete part. I think this is enough. We just need to show the error thing here, so because that should be like used everywhere. So let's copy and paste show error. So currently I am like not reusing the code very much, but at the end of the video I will do little bit of refactoring and reuse the code. So let's delete everything. Okay, awesome. So now we don't have anything, and it was loading and it didn't show me any item because we do not have any item at this point. Okay, so error is fine. Do we need to show the error anywhere else? Any message? I think things look good, so success is not required here. Okay, it's awesome. So let's move to the edit page. So for that we will copy or clone the code of navigation, and we will do navigate to edit page. So when we will like click on add item, and when we add the item we get a form and we add it, and we will use the same page for delete edit also. But currently we have one problem here which we should fix first. So when we create any item and go back, so like go back to refresh, so whenever we will go back it should automatically refresh because we are coming back from the add page, so most probably we have added something. So we can do this very quickly. So for that we just have to come to the add page code, and here we will just make it async, and the push method is asynchronous method, which means whenever you push something it takes some time. When you come back, like this method get completed. So if I add await, so now the code is waiting on the line number 90. Until and unless you will not go back, it will not run whatever is written after line number 90. So this is the meaning of await. So now if I go back, it runs the code and refresh the page. And there was a drawback: if you go to the add page and come back, then also it will refresh it. So we will not focus on the optimization for now, but that was a drawback. Moving forward, now when we click on that edit, it navigate to the add page. But when we are moving to the edit page, we will give the selected item to the add page. So now the add page, so this is the add page, we will give the to do item to the add page. So now add page will do some customization on the top of this logic and make this add page behave like a edit page. So here you can see we have a optional to do map. So if we click on the edit, it moves to this page, you see, and when it is moving to this page, now it is having that to do map data. So I will create a variable here and say is edit, which will be by default false, and inside the init state I will check if the to do data exists, which means someone is coming to this page using edit button, because whenever we'll come to this page using edit button there will be to do data. So I will say is edit is true. So now if I click on this, you see I go to this one, is edit variable becomes true, but how can we feel it? So I will say if is edit is true, show the title as edit to do, otherwise add to do. So let's go and click on edit. You see edit to do. If I click at the bottom button, it says add to do. So I hope that what value this line is adding. So just by passing that to do item, it makes the page to behave like a edit page, and in the add page we are not passing that, so it is not like the add like edit page. Moving forward, using this is edit variable we can make more changes. So let's change the button now. So if this is the edit page, the button text should say update. So you can see the button text is now saying update. Also the button is very small, so let's add little bit of padding and make it more appealing. So this is very big, so we can decrease it. I think this one is good enough. Yeah, so now if someone will press on the button, so it will call the update data instead of submit data, because when you are on edit, you are not like submitting the data anymore, you are updating the data which already exists. So now this will call update data. Okay, so moving forward, now we will work on pre-fill. So when you are editing something, what happens is that you have some data which you wanted to edit. So we will show the user what data they are trying to edit by pre-filling those data. So for that, I will create one variable to do. Inside that, I will store widget.todo and I will check if the to do is not null. Then I will say to do of title. I get the title in title variable. Later on, I got the description in title description on description variable, and I set the title controller dot text as title and description controller dot text as description. So this will help us in pre-filling the value. If I go to edit, you see this is pre-fill, learn, edit. So this was value was pre-filled. If I go to the second one, go back to refresh, and it is also pre-fill. So now we are having everything set up. Now I think we are ready to move to the logic, how the API call will happen for the update. Currently if we click on the button, nothing will happen. So now we will do the API call. So here also the API call will go similar to the create. First of all, we need to get the data. Using the text field, we will get the data, and because in order to update it, we need to first know what is in the text field. The next one is submit the data to the server. Earlier we were also submitting, now also we will also submit, and there is one difference. So let's understand what is the difference in submission. So let's take a ID and let's go to put, and if we put the ID here and click on execute, it like do this. So here we have content type in the header, and this time the request URL doesn't look similar to the create. In the create we were having some different URL. You see here we are having a URL which doesn't contain any ID, but this contains a ID. Okay, so this is submit update data to the server, or updated data to the server. Okay, and at the end that was the ID. So that should come from the to do map which we have sent from the previous page. So widget.todo will give us the data which is coming from the previous page. If that will be null, we will say return. Why? Because suppose that someone call this method in add, like when they are on the add page, someone call this method by mistake, so at that time they will not have the to do data, so it should not execute anything. Okay, so if the to do data exists, then it will go further and it will have the ID and the is completed data, and I can have the is completed. But for now, let's not use is completed. Let's not go into the complication. Let's keep the thing very simple. Let's keep the is completed at false. So we got the ID. Now you see it is a put. At the top also you can see it is a put. Earlier we were having the post. This also takes the body. So now we will copy this thing here for the visual feedback. So this is put. If the request is, you can see, if I scroll down, you can see in the left side there is 200. That was the success code. So if it is 200, I will reset the text field, but in the edit case it doesn't reset. Why? Because we do not want to reset, because they are not creating update success. If they will click on the update button multiple times, they are interacting with a single data. Also, if we do not have any title and try to submit, it will give us the error of updation fail. So title is a required property here. So now if I do pull to refresh, the data updates, but by default it doesn't update. So if I suppose edit the title, update working, submit and go back, you see the title doesn't update. If I refresh, now it updated, but we do not want to do it manually, we want to do it automatically. So we will use the same logic which we used in add. So we will just use await and make the API call again. So now if we will go to the edit page and come back, it will automatically refresh. Let's go to the edit, and this is dynamic. Thank you so much. And let's update the description also, and I will make videos on pagination and like animation. So currently there is no any animation involved in the removal or deletion of the item. So now we will move to the code refactoring. So this is one of the important part here. So now we are having a code which is working, everything is good here at this point, but the code is very long, it is like mixed, everything is so much mixed, it is hard to read and understand for any new people. So we will refactor it and improve the user experience also. So currently we do not have any to do here, but we are not aware if the API failed or like there is no to do in the list. So we will have the visibility and say if items is not empty, show that list, otherwise show some text and tell them no item in to do, so that this will help the user to get the experience or idea, yes, there is no any item, the API worked and API go to the server and server doesn't return anything, which means there is nothing on the server. And let's make the text a little bit bigger in order to make it more appealing or readable. Okay, no to do item. Let's add a item and let's come back and let's see if everything works as expected or not. Submit, let's come back, it automatically refresh, we have the item. So this one is good. If I delete it again, show me the no to do item. So things looks good here. Moving forward, now we should do little bit of more improvement. So let's add a to do item now, and if I go back, it refresh and it show me the item, which is good. So now I will add a card on the top of list style, which will make this more beautiful. And the reason why I am doing this, because after this I will do a major refactoring which will give you the scope why I added the card. So you see now this one is looking good. Let's reduce the padding. So now things look good, but you can see that the card the code is very bigger. Okay, the code is very bigger. So now what I will do, I will create a folder for services, and in this file we will move all the code to do service. So this will handle all the API call related thing. So we have get, post, put, delete, everything will be done in this file only. So no API call outside of this file. So we are just trying to keep a one type of operation in a one file. So tomorrow if something fails in API, we will look into that file, not into the complete code base. So let's start with delete by ID. So here I will come and create a static method which will be delete by ID, and this will be async and it will just take a ID, and I will just paste the code which came from the previous file. And if you can see here, if the status code is 200, which means it was deleted successfully, so it will return true or false based on the status code is 200 or not. So I am getting an error because of HTTP is not imported. So let's import it and let's fix the error. So now the delete by ID is done. So these three lines are not like that much useful anymore, and this doesn't belong to here. Now this all code belongs to do service, and here we just pass the ID and it works. And in the response what we get if the deletion was success or not. So it is success, true or false. Success variable isn't good, we should make is success, so this will tell like true or false, like kind of a question thing. So each success, if it's true, it will remove it, otherwise it will give us the error. So now this code become little shorter, but moreover it was not to make the code short. The main reason was to like keep the similar type of code in a single file. So API call will go there, that's why I am doing it. So now I will do the same thing for the next method, which is getting all the data. So for this it will return the list of data, and the method name is going to be fetch to dos, and let's make it async. So if we come here, we see that if the response code is 200, everything is good. Okay, if everything is good, we need to parse it to the JSON and return the list. So this one is good now, and if everything is not good, we will return null. So let's make the list as nullable and import like IO for conversion or dot convert. Things look good now. Let's remove the unwanted code from here, and yeah, so now I will say final response equals to to-do service dot fetch data. So this will fetch all the data. Let's use await here. So if the response is not null, which means everything is good, let's set the response in the items. If everything is good, there will be not null, otherwise there will be some error. So in the else part we can show the error. So show error, and we can say something went wrong. That's it. So there's a typo, went O. Let's remove O. Okay, so this one is good now. So now fetch is also refactored. So both of the API call has been moved to the other file. Moving forward, now I will create a folder utils where we will have the helpers. So we will create a snack bar helper, and in this file we will use the show error and paste it. Why? Because show error is being used in multiple files and the same code is getting repeated. So in order to avoid this, what we will do, we will keep this file code in a single file, and we will import the code wherever required. Okay, so now let's delete this code also, and in the fetch to do you can see it is asking for the parameters. So the first one is going to be the context and the other is going to be a message. Okay, so the context, if you are having like toast outside of the state full widget like this, you need to pass the context. So that's why I am passing the context from here. Okay, so now talking about the card is also bigger, like 30 lines of code. So I will create a folder called widget, and in that widget we will have a to-do card, and this file will have the code. So I will create a stateless to-do card and I will paste this code. Things look good now. So let's import the material. Let's remove unwanted import. So this card is dependent on few variables, so let's have that variable. So the first one is the index, the second one is the map, final, map, and item. Okay, so still we are getting some error for navigate to edit page and delete by id. So this method is defined in this file. So you see this method is here. So either I can copy this and move to that file, or I can pass this method to that file also. Yeah, definitely you can pass a method to the other file, it's possible. So let's pass it. So I will create a function which will take the map, and the function name is going to be navigate edit. Okay, and let's keep it here. So now awesome, so now I will update this name like this. So this is done. So the next one is delete by id. So let's clone this. It takes string, so delete by id takes string, so I will say string. That's it. The id is still like undefined, so id can be get from the item. If you remember, the to do item is having the id. That's it. as a string because I am aware that the ID is going to be string. Now it's time to refactor this thing. So let's delete the card and we will say to do card and let's import it. So now it will ask for a few parameters which we have defined. Delete by ID. So delete by ID. The navigate is going to be the navigate, and moving forward. After that we have item. It is going to be item. ID is not required there. We are having an error. It says navigate to add page. Okay. Yeah, I got it. So it should be not navigate to add page. Instead, it should be navigate to edit page. Looks awesome. So now we like put all those like to do card in a different file. So now things has been refactored in this file. Things look good now, although it can be improved very much, very much, very much. But like we do not want to like become the master in a, like a 1 hour of a video. We need to learn slowly, step by step, baby step. So here also everything looks good till this point. Yeah, so what we can do here, so for this we are having this update data. So the update data will come here. Like update data is again a API call. So after the updation, either it will be success or failure. So the update data takes two things: the ID which we wanted to update and the body or the data which we want to update or replace with the current data. uh, Service, let's open the add page. Yeah, so this is the update data. So how this will work? So this will work like this. We are having the body which will be passed to the next page, and here we are having the API call. So basically we are moving the API call to the next file, not everything. So API call comes here. Here we are having ID which is good, and the map is going to be body. Let's update the variable name. Now I will return true false. So if the status code is 200, everything is good. So let's return it. If the 200, the result will be true, otherwise false. So now the API call logic can be removed from here, and we can write some simple logic to do service dot update by ID. Okay, the response is going to be true false, so I will name it as is success. If this is success, it will be like update on success confirmation. Yeah, so now I think the update part is done. Let's move to the next one, which is create. So create is almost similar to the update, so I just copy and paste the complete code and let's add it. It doesn't require the ID, it only requires the body, and yeah, other thing is fine, and the status code 200 is good. Okay, so instead of having all of this, we will say to do service dot add, and we will just pass the body, and it will also return like true false. So I will say is success, and if the is success is true, in that case everything is good. Here also we can take this snack bar and we can move to the other file. Let's have the context and message, context comma message. Okay, and for the success we don't have the success snack bar, so let's remove this error. It was 2 times. Let's copy the parameter pattern success. Okay, so now here we will have context and named parameter message. Looks good. This one is good. Let's have the same thing here. Okay, so now most of the thing has been improved. Only minor things needs to be improved. The body. So the way body is working, we are taking the input. It can be like used as common because create and update both wants the body. So we can have a getter map get body, and we can paste this code here, and we can just return this map. So now wherever you will use the variable name body, so get the data will become like that. You see, get the data. Now this is the get the data. So the body is now act like a variable. So let's remove this one. Okay, awesome. So getter is a new concept. If you don't know, you should learn about this one. So this is the getter which gives fetch the data from the form field and give us the value. Yeah, I think that's it. So if you face any problem while learning this concept, please let me know, and if I can help you, I will love to help you.